Please rise. I'd like to call the meeting of the Lowell City Council to order. Please join me in the council prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please join me in honoring America during this Veterans Day week. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Dakota.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Mendonça.
Here.
Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in Darken Chamber for a remarkable woman whom I had the pleasure of meeting a short time ago, Anna Markowitz Ferroli, a first-generation Polish-American who attended St. Stanislaus School and graduated from Lowell High School in 1936. Mrs. Ferroli gave 32 years of distinguished military service as a nurse that dated back to World War II. Mrs. Ferroli first served as a nurse during wartime at a hospital in Africa. Later, she was stationed in Naples, Italy, where she cared for a hospital of amputees and worked as a Polish translator. At the end of World War II, she signed up for the Army Reserves and continued to serve until 1974. She was promoted to chief nurse, and she was honorably discharged with the rank of lieutenant colonel. Mrs. Ferroli was decorated with a number of military honors, including 2 Bronze Stars, 5 Overseas Bars, and the Army Reserve Component Achievement Medal. Mrs. Ferroli worked as a registered nurse for the Lowell Health Department, the Visiting Nurses Association, and the Veterans Administration outpatient clinics in Lowell, Boston, and Worcester. I had the honor of meeting her recently and learning of her spectacular service to our country. I am truly grateful to this remarkable woman. She was 96 years old, and she is someone that I would definitely call a hero. We offer our sympathy to her family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. The chair recognizes Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Also, I'd like a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Richard M. Sawyer, Sr., a loving and devoted husband, father, grandfather. Mr. Sawyer served his country with pride and distinction in the United States Army and the United States Air Force during the Korean War. Mr. Sawyer, along with Frank Santos, were the founding members of the Korean War Veterans Chapter in Lowell. Mr. Sawyer also was instrumental in forming the very first girls softball league for the Pawtuckaville Youth Organization. May Mrs. Ferroli and Mr. Sawyer rest in peace.
Thank you. Let us rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers, and I would also like to ask my colleagues that we remember all other Lowell residents who have passed away since our last meeting. Thank you. May they rest in peace. Again, good evening. Our first order of business is to recognize and welcome a new company that has opened here in Lowell. The name of the company is Whole Wellness Center, and I see the owners are here tonight. I would invite them to come to the podium. We actually did have a ribbon cutting on November 5th, and I want to thank Vice Mayor Kevin Broderick for attending the opening. It's a new business at 1527 Middlesex Street. It's a nutrition and wellness business, and I invite the owner, Samita Apete, to address the council. Again, the name of the business is the Whole Wellness Center, located here on Middlesex Street. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to present us here. And we offer the nutritional beverages at the 1527 Middlesex Street. We open since morning 7:30 to 2 o'clock, and in the evening 4 to evening 7 o'clock. And thank you. We also provide the facility like community service, like weight loss challenge, where we educate people about the healthy choices. And you can contact us on 978-399-4837. And thank you, Mr. Kevin, for coming there.
Yeah.
And thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. On behalf of my colleagues, we wish you all the best. Thank you for choosing Lowell. Next item on the agenda, the minutes of the November 2nd regular meeting and the special meeting for acceptance. Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor of accepting the minutes signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Thank you. Next item, communications, city manager, responses to council motions and requests. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The council received a thank you letter from Mr. Anderson from the Hellenic Academy for having the traffic engineer visit the school and make some recommendations. And I asked for these crosswalks to be painted back in May. The traffic engineer indicated that the crosswalk on Broadway, Dummer Street, is very, very important. It needs to be painted when weather is permitting. It also suggests that the 4 different signs be erected for the safety issues. But it also states that those signs would cost the Hellenic Academy $1,500. Now, I don't know if this is a first, but it's a first for me. And if you look at all the private schools we have in the city, Mr. Mayor, whether it's St. Margaret, St. Louis, St. Patrick's, the Immaculate Conception, St. John d'Arc, the Hellenic Academy, St. Michael's, and there's more. If we didn't have those private schools in this city, we'd have to build 2 more schools. Now, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, Mr. Manager, what is this new? Is this something new that we're going to be charging to put up signs?
No, actually, it isn't, Counselor. In fact, we charge our own school department. Signs for our school department comes out of, for our own public schools, comes out of the school department budget. And we do the same for the other schools as well. And in fact, that was one of our concerns. If we treat this school differently than we treat all of our other schools, then that really isn't, it isn't fair to the other schools.
But when we charge the Lowell Public Schools, that's maintenance of effort. That's where it comes from.
No, it comes out, we're well over the maintenance of effort, so it doesn't, that's not just magic money. That comes right out of their school
Charge
budget.
the Lowell Public Schools to put up a sign, school crossing, or whatever it might be?
Yes.
Well, I called Mr. Anderson today, and he said, "Did you receive my thank you letter?" I says, "I haven't seen it yet," but he didn't know about these signs. Nothing. He doesn't know nothing about it. And once again, these private schools, if we didn't have them, Mr. Manager, the tax rate would be immense, because we'd have to build 2 more schools.
Well, actually, we'd get more in school aid as well. But,
Mr. Manager, when can that crosswalk be painted?
well, we'll see if we can do it this year, if at all possible.
Why wasn't it done months ago?
It should have been done. It should have been done.
That's a very dangerous intersection, and there's 200 youngsters who attend school there. I don't think any one of us want to see a fatality of a serious accident.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And again, we have the same problem across the entire city with the limited resources we have, trying to do all the crosswalks and all the areas throughout the city. But we'll get right on that and see if we can get that done within the next couple of weeks.
And also, Mr. Manager, could you furnish the council with the cost of putting up signs for the Lowell Public Schools and private schools? I want to see that list that you claimed that it's there.
I'll look for whatever documentation we have on that.
Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did receive a communication from the city manager regarding the Powwow Oak Tree and the latest developments on the partnership in addressing the conditions there. And if there's no objection with this communication, there are two people that would like to speak on that, one being Judge Cumanzelis and Kimberly Wentworth, the president of the Daughters of the American Revolution, if they could come briefly to speak.
Motion by Council Mercy, second by Council Elliott, that we suspend the rules to allow our guests to speak on the Powwow Oak issue. All those in favor of suspension, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, to vote. Good evening. Please come to the podium, state your name and address. And we do have a 5-minute rule here in the council chambers. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Thank you for hearing us. My name is George Cumanzelis. I live at 241 Remington Street in Lowell. And to my right is Attorney Kimberly Whitworth, the president of the Concord chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, which absorbed the Lowell chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, the people who put the sign there in, I believe, May of 1931. On behalf of all of the Powwow Oak protectors, I would personally like to thank the City Council, every member of the council, the manager's office, and especially Mr. Henry Marchand. Sir, thank you very much for all your hard work in helping us save this historic tree on Clark Road. I have with me a branch from the Powwow Oak that the city workers recently cut down. They trimmed the dead wood off the tree. Thank you for ordering that. They did a good job. And I would also like to present for our viewers, I kind of feel like Wall-E here. This is a sapling from the Powwow Oak, which may be between 300 and 400 years old. And it's a month old. I grew it from an acorn. Each one of you has a similar acorn. You can do the same. I really want to thank the City of Lowell for acknowledging the fact that this is a very historic tree. Not many years ago, a young man named Henry David Thoreau from Concord, Massachusetts, took a canoe ride up the Concord River and passed through Lowell. And Lowell being the foundation of the Industrial Revolution in the Western Hemisphere, I think it's very appropriate that the City of Lowell would do everything in its power, as it's doing, to acknowledge the fact that we do have a remnant of wilderness here in the city, and that is the Powwow Oak. Henry wrote, quote, "In wilderness is the preservation of the world, and the Powwow Oak is the last bastion, or one of them, of wilderness, a symbol of wilderness here in the city of Lowell." Another modern author, one of the founders of the modern organic farming movement, and a gentleman farmer named Wendell Berry of the Wilderness Society, has also written, echoing Mr. Thoreau's sentiments, quote, "To cherish what remains of the earth and to foster its renewal is our only legitimate hope of survival," unquote, Wendell Berry. And so I want to thank the council for helping us to cherish and renew what we have left of nature and of history here in the city. I thank you all with my heart very, very much. I turn it over to President of the Daughters of the American Revolution, Kimberly Whitworth.
Thank you, George. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Whitworth. I live at 8 Burnham Road in Andover, Massachusetts. As was stated, I am the president of the Old Concord chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. The Old Concord, or the Molly Varnum chapter, was disbanded, and it became part of the Old Concord chapter. And we've sort of taken up the torch with regard to this historic tree, and we're very supportive of everything that the Powwow Oak protectors have done, and we just thank the City of Lowell very much for their efforts in helping us to protect this tree. There is a marker there right now that the Molly Varnum chapter did put up, and we're hoping that it becomes something more permanent and becomes something that that people actually want to go visit, because it's both a cultural and historic landmark for the City of Lowell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Council Mercia?
Thank you. I did have a chance to go look at that sign that Kimberly is talking about, but I'm so excited to see all this passion that's displayed over history and nature. This is really remarkable. I just got a little bit nervous when I saw that piece of bark come out, because I thought he was going to fashion a slingshot, but he didn't, so that was a good thing. So that's all I have on this particular issue. thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting them come and speak
Thank you.
so passionately.
Thank you. Getting back to the regular agenda, anyone else want to speak on any other item?
Yes, I have another item. Thank you,
Councilor
Mr. Mayor.
Mercer.
I'm concerned about the communication I got on Foster Street at Princeton Boulevard to make it a four-way stop area. I asked that a letter be sent. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, you did send off a wonderful letter to the Patricia Leavenworth, the director of highway, the district highway director, and she sent a nice letter back that things are trying to happen there, and so thank you for communicating that. There was an initial request for that, and they wrote a letter back stating that things that they could do to make it safe there. The police are patrolling that area a little bit more frequently. However, we would need some sort of a study done to see if they could do that. So there are some recommendations. They could restripe the pavement marking. They could replace a faded sign that's missing, indicating that it's 30 miles per hour. There are two other things that they said, that because it's a state roadway, there's really no parking there, but they didn't want to upset the people that live in that particular area. But we could just take a look at that and see what we'd want to do with that. But they are indicating that specific requests for a comprehensive traffic study be done, and they're in the process of trying to do that. So there is hope, and I appreciate the fact that you wrote a letter stating, I know we have to start somewhere, you did that. So I'm hoping that they can do a study and see if it's, you submitted the 11 accidents that were reported in that immediate area. They are fully aware of all this, so we did get a very lengthy report to everything that went into this, so I want to thank you for doing that. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Anyone else on communications? Councilor Caulfield.
It's not a communication from the manager, but I think it's very important that we recognize the Lowell Police Department and all the federal agencies who confiscated over 40 handguns and rifles, a cache of money, and many drugs. And we should applaud them for their efforts, because we had a subcommittee meeting just weeks prior to that, and they were already working behind the scenes to address that issue. So I want to thank the Police Chief, Ken LaValle, the men and women who work for the Lowell Police Department, plus all the federal agencies that were involved in this major arrest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. Anyone else in communications? Motion by Councilman Donson, seconded by Councilor Martin, to accept the communications placed on file. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Thank you. Next item, vote in City Council order, transfer from the general fund long-term interest account to the police salaries permanent account. Ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the amount of $250,000 be transferred from general fund long-term interest account, account number 071097995-59700, to police salaries permanent, account number 021041511-51100. Order recommended and introduced by Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. If there's no objection, second reading by title. Vote in City Council order, transfer from the general fund long-term interest account to the police salaries permanent account. Any discussion?
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next item, vote in City Council order, a supplemental appropriation to meet fixed charges and current expenditures of the City of Lowell for the fiscal year 2010 to 2011, ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the amount of $465,000 be hereby further appropriated for the following fixed charges and current expenses: police salaries permanent, account number 021041515-51100. Order recommended and introduced by Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Second reading by title vote in City Council order, a supplemental appropriation to meet fixed charges and current expenses of the City of Lowell for the fiscal year 2010 to 2011. Any questions?
Yes.
Council Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, this is the Cross Point Initiative. That's where the Lowell Police, other police, and federal agencies conduct.
That's not
meetings.
before us
Not there
yet,
yet.
Council. That's the next item on the agenda.
What's that?
That's the next item on the agenda.
Oh,
That's
I'm
not
sorry.
before us. That's okay. That's okay. But I will recognize you during that part of the agenda. Anyone?
Move approval.
Move approval by Council Mercia, second by Council Dakota. Roll call.
Counselor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counselor Dakota.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease agreement with Cross Point Limited Partnership of 900 Chelmsford Street, Lowell, for the rental of commercial office space for the Lowell Police Department Cross-Border Initiative. Said lease shall be for a term of 5 years with an option to renew for an additional year. Whereas the City of Lowell issued its request for proposal for the renting space for use by the Lowell Police Department for Cross-Border Initiative Program for a period of 5 years with an option to renew for an additional year, and whereas Cross Point Limited Partnership is the owner of the premises at 900 Chelmsford Street, Lowell, and has submitted a proposal to the City of Lowell in response to its request, and whereas the City of Lowell has accepted the proposal submitted by said Cross Point Limited Partnership, now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows. Whereas the City Council must authorize the city manager to proceed under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, in order to lease such property for a period of 5 years with an option for an additional 1-year renewal term, and whereas the city manager be and is hereby authorized to enter into a lease agreement with the Cross Point Limited Partnership of 900 Chelmsford Street, Lowell, for property located at 900 Chelmsford Street, Lowell. Said lease agreement shall be for a term of 5 years, terminating on November 14th, 2015, with an option to renew for an additional year, subject to annual appropriation, and shall be in accordance with the form or substantially the form attached hereto. Cross-border initiative, 3,454 square feet. First year, $55,263.96. Second year, $58,718.05. Third year, $62,172. Fourth year, $65,625.96. Fifth year, $69,080.04. The per month per square foot charge goes from $16 a square foot up to $20 a square foot in the fifth year. Total payments under said lease agreement during the entire 5-year term shall be $310,860 for the Cross-Border Initiative Program. Be it further voted that the lease shall contain other terms and conditions as the city manager deems to be in the best interest of the City of Lowell. There's no objection. Second reading by title. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager enter into a lease agreement with Cross Point Limited Partnership of 900 Chelmsford Street, Lowell, for the rental of commercial office space for the Lowell Police Department Cross-Border Initiative. Said lease shall be for a term of 5 years with an additional option to renew for an additional year. Chair recognizes Council Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I apologize for getting ahead of myself, but the Cross Point Initiative, are we going to receive any federal reimbursement for this rent? How much, Mr. Manager?
We actually receive a grant to pay for the entire thing. We just act as the agent for the cross-border initiative to rent the space. This used to be part of the space for the training
Right.
facility that we had.
Right.
We reduced the amount of space that we use there by moving the training facility into the early garage. The remaining portion is that which is used by the cross-border initiative, which is paid for entirely with federal
So
funds.
the Lowell taxpayer is not going to be paying
That's-
this, it's going to be federally reimbursed? That makes it
That's
even
correct.
sweeter. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Elliott.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was, I did see the advertisement, Mr. Manager, and it was put out to bid
Yes.
for a proposal, right?
Was put out to
I'm
bid.
just curious, did anybody, any other, anyone take out proposals for this?
I believe this was the only bid.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counselor Dakota.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
I'm sorry, do we actually have a motion? Do we have a motion on that? Or do we just, no, okay. Next item, before we get to public hearing, In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager to enter into a purchase and sale agreement with Massachusetts Electric Company to purchase 179 Bridge Street in the city of Lowell and to execute a permanent easement from the city of Lowell to Massachusetts Electric Company over a portion of the property more fully set forth in Exhibit B. Whereas the city of Lowell desires to purchase said property for the Riverwalk Project Phase 2, which is public walkway along the Merrimack River, whereas the purchase of this land will allow handicapped accessible access to the Riverwalk from the Bridge Street node, and whereas the city manager has recommended to the city council that the city accept said proposal and purchase from Massachusetts Electric Company the property situated at 179 Bridge Street in said Lowell, now therefore be it voted by a 2/3 vote of the city council as follows, that the city manager be, and he is hereby authorized in the name of the city of Lowell, to enter into a purchase and sale agreement with Massachusetts Electric Company to purchase the property situated at 179 Bridge Street in the city of Lowell for the total sum of $69,000. Be it further voted that the city manager be and is hereby authorized to execute a permanent easement from the city of Lowell to Massachusetts Electric Company to construct, reconstruct, install, repair, replace, maintain, operate, use, inspect, and patrol electrical and/or gas business operation facilities and appurtenances, including but not limited to electrical switchyard equipment located in, through, under, over, across, and upon a certain parts of land situated on Bridge Street in said Lowell and more fully set forth in Exhibit B. Be it further voted that the city manager be and is hereby authorized in the name of the city of Lowell to accept the deeds and any and all other documents of conveyance related to the sale and conveyance of aforementioned properties on such terms and conditions as the city manager deems in the best interest of the city of Lowell. Be it further voted that upon conveyance, the vote, deeds, and any and all related plans shall be duly recorded in the registry of deeds at the expense of the grantee. Grantee shall also pay the stamp tax if applicable. Second reading by title in the city council vote, authorizing the city manager to enter a purchase and sale agreement with Massachusetts Electric Company to purchase 179 Bridge Street in the city of Lowell and to execute a permanent easement from the city of Lowell to Massachusetts Electric Company over a portion of the said property more fully described in Exhibit B. Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we're talking about $69,000, and no city funds will be used to acquire this parcel. It'll come from our understanding of a federal grant funds, so that's good news, too. We're on a roll, no money to the city. Move
Mr. Manager?
approval.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, just a comment to Councilor Mercer. Yes, this is federal money, and this is federal money that's been sitting there for some time. This has been a very long and arduous process. It was underway or began thereabouts when I came on as city manager. So it's been a tough road to hoe here with the working with the National Grid. But Mr. Bakey and Ms. Barton have worked quite hard at making this happen, and we're finally going to be able to make that last connection of the Riverwalk from the Boot Mills over to the Cox Bridge.
Thank you.
Motion by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Dakota. Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. It being 7 o'clock, it's public hearing time. We have two public hearings this evening. The first one is from Comcast to install conduit in East Merrimack Street and House Street. Chair would open the public hearing for all those wishing to speak in favor. All those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium and state your name and who you're representing, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Joe DeGaudet with Comcast. We've had some interest at 77 East Merrimack Street for our services, and we'd like to put in a conduit system and extend the cable to that facility.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition, public hearing is closed. Motion to refer to the wire inspector by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor of referring to the wire inspector, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, to vote. Thank you. Next public hearing, conduit location, National Grid, request main extension at 170 Merrimack Street and conduits in Dutton Street and Trolley Way. Chair opens the public hearing for all those wishing to speak in favor. In favor.
Hi, my name is Dave Aguirre, and I'm representing National Grid, and would like to ask the City of Lowell for permission to install conduit across Dutton Street. This will serve the Hamilton Canal project.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Victor Santana, Business Office, 40 Sylvan Road, Waltham, Mass. Speaking on behalf of National Grid for the main extension. This is in support of Enterprise Bank. They're bringing in our backup generator that needs the natural gas power to function correctly. The current main that we have nearby to the facility does not provide the adequate pressure to support the backup. So we're asking for a grant of location for the main extension.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Santana. Anyone else wish to speak in favor?
Good evening. My name is Mike Gallagher. I represent Enterprise Bank. I'm voting in favor of this measure, and I would answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else in favor? In favor, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone in opposition? In opposition, hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Does anyone have any questions, comments? This also gets referred to the wire inspector, correct? All those in favor, motion by Councilman Donta, seconded by Councilor Dakota, refer to the wire inspector. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, to vote. Thank you. Getting back to the regular agenda, we have an order of taking, and I believe we have someone registered to speak on this. In City Council, order of taking to take by eminent domain certain parcels of land in the City of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, in furtherance of the Concord River Greenway Development, 802.2 Lawrence Street, whereas the City of Lowell is desirous of developing a scenic public walkway along the Concord River, and whereas the City Council of the City of Lowell, in order to accomplish the development of said scenic public walkway along the Concord River, has the right to exercise its power of eminent domain to acquire thereby certain properties, be it ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows. 1, that the City of Lowell, by right of eminent domain pursuant to the applicable provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 79, and also Chapter 610 of the Acts of 1967, if applicable, and of any and other power granted or implied, hereby takes certain parcels hereinafter specified for the City of Lowell by eminent domain for municipal purposes, to wit, in furtherance of the Concord River Greenway Development. Said taking by eminent domain is for the fee simple interest in and to certain parcels of land, including any buildings, vegetation, and improvements thereon as hereinafter specified. Said taking by eminent domain is subject to any utility easements to Lowell Gas Company, Mass Electric Company, or New England Telephone, or the successors of such entities, and any other utility easement as may be recorded at Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds, which easements are specifically excluded from this order of taking. This aforesaid taking of parcels consisting of 16,020 plus or minus square feet is herein specified as shown on the plan entitled 802.2 Lawrence Street, Lowell, by AA Engineering LLC, surveyors and civil engineers, 13 Hillcrest Street, Dunstable, dated July 29, 2010. Scale 1 inch equals 40 feet, which plan shall be recorded with this order of taking at Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds, and a copy is attached here too as attachment A. Said attachment is incorporated by reference and made a part of this order. It is further ordered that as compensation in full for all damages by or caused to the owner of said land with the buildings thereon hereby taken, the following sum is hereby awarded for such damages incurred for reason of the taking herein of a fee thereof, reserving the right to amend the award at any time prior to the payment thereof by reason of change of ownership for any other good cause shown. 16,020 square feet, property address 802.2 Lawrence Street, owner's name Kenneth M. and Scagel and SNS Realty Trust, monetary award $16,000, Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds, book 3704, page 329, type of taking eminent domain, grand total sum of award damage is $16,000. It is further ordered that the amount of any unpaid encumbrances and or taxes will be deducted by the city from any award and paid directly to the party entitled thereto. Fourth, it is further ordered that a copy of the order and related plans, if any, be recorded forthwith with the Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds and the land registration section thereof, if applicable, in compliance with Mass General Law, Chapter 79. 5, it is further voted that the sum of $16,000 for the takings herein of fee and said parcel of land for all damages caused in connection with such taking, plus the cost of recordings and other incidental charges related thereto, be charged against the appropriation entitled Acquisition of Properties, account 3501005580601. Second reading by title. In City Council, order of taking to take by eminent domain certain parcels of land in the City of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, in furtherance of the Concord River Greenway Development, 802.2 Lawrence Street. We do have someone registered to speak. Mr. Goldman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the Lowell City Council. Mr. Manager, staff, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Oman, Potato, Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. Wish to be recorded in favor of this. This will improve and extend the Concord River Greenway, and as you did in the previous vote, that, along with connecting it with the river walkway that now exists with the Merrimack River, will make this city really a jewel, and it will beautify the city and the natural resources that everyone will enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Chair recognizes Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the unofficial 10th city councilor has stated, that this would truly be a benefit to people that are really involved with getting their health together and exercising and walking, and this just is like adding that link that is so well needed. Again, we're talking about more money. We're talking about $16,000. It is, again, no cost to the city per se from the budget. It is coming from the sale of property at, many of us go back a ways, and we remember that property on 1095 Westford Street, and the sale of that property is where this money is coming from. So I'm happy to say that we're on another roll today. It's not coming from the budget, so that's good.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Motion by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next item in City Council vote, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to accept a gift pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, and enter into an occupancy agreement with Lowell 5-cent Savings Bank of 1 Merrimack Plaza, Lowell, for property located at 97 University Avenue, Lowell. Whereas Lowell 5-cent Savings Bank has offered 97 University Avenue, Lowell, for a 2-year period at no cost to the City of Lowell Police Department. The staff is primarily with the North Sector Commanding Officer, and whereas the Lowell 5-cent Savings Bank currently leases an office ATM space within the first floor of 97 University Avenue, and whereas the bank has moved their office operation from this location and has generously offered to allow the Lowell Police Department to sublease the space at no cost to the City of Lowell, whereas Thomas 80 of the 80 Conway Company Incorporated is the owner of the premises at 97 University Avenue, Lowell, whereas the City of Lowell has accepted the gift submitted by said Lowell 5-cent Savings Bank. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the city manager be and is hereby authorized to accept a gift pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, and to enter into an occupancy agreement with Lowell 5-cent Savings Bank of 1 Merrimack Plaza, Lowell, for property located at 97 University Avenue, Lowell. Said occupancy agreement shall be for a term of 2 years, commencing upon execution and expiring 2 years thereafter. The payments for this property for the 2-year period shall be at no cost to the City of Lowell. Said occupancy agreement shall be in accordance with the form or substantially the form attached hereto. Second reading by title. In City Council vote, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, and enter into an occupancy agreement with Lowell 5-cent Savings Bank of 1 Merrimack Plaza, Lowell, for property located at 97 University Avenue, Lowell. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move approved by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Mendoza. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Before I recognize Councilor Broderick for the zoning subcommittee report, I want to recognize Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would request a suspension of the rules. This suspension does not involve any motion whatsoever, but I did receive a note from a concerned resident who for many years was in pursuit of an original vote naming the
Could we get to the suspension first?
Oh,
Motion
I'm
to suspend the rules by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Dakota. All those in favor of suspending the rules indicate by saying aye. Opposed, vote.
Yeah, thank you. I did receive a note from a concerned resident who for many years was concerned about the original vote naming the Lowell Connector, and he sent me the results of his findings, and with your permission and that of my colleagues, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to very briefly read what he wrote. And it says, with the help of Senator Steve Panagiotakis' office, I was able to firmly establish that the so-called Lowell Connector was truly the American Legion Connector Highway. This was approved by the Great General Court on May 20th, 1963, Chapter 419, an act designating a certain state highway in the city of Lowell as the American Legion Connector Highway. The Senator's office is getting in touch with Mass Highway, and there is an understanding that the state is in the process of appropriating 4 signs to be installed in the near future to complement the vote of 1963, signed Bill Ronsley. So I think he just asked me to do that, and I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you. We'll accept the information.
Communication placed
on file by
you.
Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's nothing on the agenda regarding petitions that I saw, and I don't know if this requires a suspension of the rules or not, but there is a letter about a license agreement that was on our desks this evening for 396 Andover Street. The resident is undertaking extensive renovations and apparently needs a license agreement from the city to do some final sidewalk repairs. So I guess to the extent, I'd like to forward this on to the law department for...
While we're under suspension.
So I would move that we treat this as a petition and forward the request of Attorney Albert onto the law department to prepare the license agreement.
Okay, motion by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Again, we need to vote on the communication accepted on file. I don't think we actually voted. All those in favor of accepting the communication placed on file signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Anything else while we're under suspension? Hearing none, getting back to the regular agenda. Subcommittee reports. The chair recognizes Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The zoning subcommittee met this evening to review the zoning ordinance changes that were forwarded to the subcommittee at the last meeting that are coming up for a public hearing next week, namely section number 4 dealing with the drive-through businesses or allowance thereof as it pertains to neighborhood business district and traditional mixed-use zoning. And essentially, the recommendation from DPD that garnered support from both the planning board and the neighborhood groups that were involved was that we be more restrictive, or I should back up and thank the neighborhood group for being involved in catching this, bringing it to the planning board's attention, which brought it to, the planning board brought it to our attention, recommendations, and we went to the subcommittee. DPD, Mr. Bakey and his staff came forward with a recommendation that we could actually potentially have a very good solution here in being more restrictive, which would protect the other neighborhoods, because this was done and designed to help develop a certain parcel in Centerville. And the way it's going to be presented for a vote next week is to establish the drive-through, two different basic drive-through. One is less onerous and one would be more onerous. For lack of a better term, restaurants would be more onerous, drive-throughs for restaurants versus like a bank or potentially a pharmacy or a different use. But basically, the less onerous would be, the more onerous and less, both of them would be prohibited in the neighborhood business district, which was a concern for the neighborhood groups across the city. And that would solve the problem there. To allow for development in some other areas, it would be, as it is now, allowed in by special permit for the less onerous, but it would also not be allowed in traditional mixed-use zoning. So basically, we could restrict 3 out of the 4 drive-through types or uses in the neighborhood business district and the traditional mixed use. I probably made it more convoluted than it really is in trying to describe it, but basically, DPD Mr. Bakey found a way to make it more restrictive, to protect the integrity of the neighborhoods, which is always a concern of the council, the planning board, and the neighborhood groups, but also allow us to help work with businesses that want to come in and grow and help us grow business and welcome business to the city. One request would be that if we can, we're going to have a draft of a new draft or a draft of a new vote coming before us next week. That is going to be allowed because it is more restrictive, so we don't have to go out and republish, renotice. If we could get that out to the interested parties, neighborhood groups, and the planning board as well, prior to the meeting, whether it's in the packet or by through email. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Broderick. Anyone, Council Caulfield?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the subcommittee under the leadership of Councilor Broderick for convening that meeting. But I also want to thank Adam Backey for coming up with a compromise that everyone is happy with and can live with. And so every neighborhood has some sort of protection. What's good for one neighborhood is definitely not good for another. So I just want to express my thanks to the planning board and especially the Pawtucket Neighborhood Association for, getting on top of this issue and bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, and by
Yes.
the way, Mr. Mayor, in 2 weeks, at the 23rd at 5 p.m., the motion that Councilor Dakota brought forward to have the neighborhood subcommittee convene a meeting, that will be held the 23rd at 5 p.m., and the clerk is going to notify all the neighborhood leaders about this meeting so they can be here to offer their views. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else on this zoning subcommittee? Hearing none, motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. Any other subcommittee reports? Hearing none, moving on to the motion part of the agenda. First motion by Councilor Murphy. Motion requests the City Council consider a home rule petition to lower the voting age to 17 years old for municipal elections. Second by Councilor Martin. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A little over a year ago, all of us attended the UTEC Candidates Night, and a question was asked of us, would we support lowering the voting age to 17 for municipal elections? And nearly all of us, except for maybe one counselor, supported that idea. And one of the arguments was brought forward by a few of the candidates that really if you're allowed to sign up and serve in the military at the age of 17, then this ought to be also allowed for municipal elections. But I think the larger argument would be an attempt really to try and encourage greater participation in a democracy. That if more people at that age, one of the campaigns that UTEC is currently working on this year is to reintroduce civics into the classroom, and that if coupled with the actual practice of that civics, of citizenship, that those lessons would be much more effective, and that you would see really lifelong habits form because of the involvement of the community in the very clear link between someone's participation in it and what can happen in that community. So I think in terms of developing long-term a much more vibrant democracy here in the city, that it is worthwhile to look into proposing this as a home rule petition to the state.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. We do have one person registered to speak, Mark Goldman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. And I wish to be recording against this motion, and usually I'm not speaking against motions, but I have some problems with this. One, it's just for municipal elections. what about state and the presidential elections? We cannot include them unless the state, unless the state law changes by the legislature or by Congress to allow 17-year-olds to vote in those elections. So I think that is just to have them allow to municipal elections, not the others, which are just as important and vital to the nation, just does not make sense to me. They can participate through scheduling debates with the Lowell Youth Council that we have established. Have the candidates for public office come before them in a debate, have them sponsor a debate. They can participate in other ways, such as having mock elections in their schools, and not just the high school, but also the middle school, and maybe even the elementary school, so the kids can get civics education, history education as the years progress. Also, I think doing the mock elections and also working for the candidates, holding signs, passing out leaflets, that will also help them get a civic education in municipal elections and other elections. It's a good idea, but I just don't think it's practical, particularly if you're going to eliminate the elections for the state offices and for the presidency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Golan. Anyone else want to be heard on the motion? Council Caulfield and Councilman Mendoza.
Yes, I mean, we lament often that the younger population who is able to vote doesn't in as large a numbers as other populations. And I would say that we should consider at least giving them the option. And I'd like to learn more about what the process would be in order to change this particular restriction. And if we can get them to sign up to vote and actually vote and then participate throughout life, I think it would be good. Especially if they take a greater interest in the local happenings and their government and how it affects them and their families. So I'd like to explore this further. I understand that we cannot legislate for the state or the federal elections. This would be strictly for local elections until others want to deal with it. But I would like to learn more about what the process would be if this involves a charter change. We had the same issue come up last week in the discussions we had then about changing our primary elections, et cetera. And we may have to learn a little bit about this, about what we can do and cannot do, but I would certainly like to move this forward and see if there is a way that we could do it, offer it up. This would probably add 1,000 people to our voter rolls. Given my experience on the school committee, generally there's about 1,000 people in each grade in our schools, so that's generally, by changing it by 1 year, that's approximately how many additional voters we would have on our rolls if they'd even come in and register. So I don't think it's going to be that big a problem to do, so long as we can make it legal to do so.
Thank you. Council Caulfield?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Council Murphy is right that this was brought up at a UTEC candidates night. I believe it was last October. And a person in the audience asked the question, would you support lowering the voting age from 18 to 17? And as each candidate said yes, there was a thunderous ovation. And when the question was posed to me, I said, I can't support that. The law states you have to be 18 years of age to vote. I contacted the Secretary of State's office today, and I spoke to legal counsel, and they indicated that 2 communities years ago filed a home rule petition to lower the voting age from 18 to 17. They're still waiting for the answer, which they'll never ever get. The legal counsel at the Secretary of State's office indicated the state law indicates an 18-year-old is a voter. So in order to change it from 18 to 17, they would have to amend a state law. Would that candidate, or would that 17-year-old voter be able to be a candidate for a municipal election on their own? Could that 17-year-old be a candidate for the school committee, for the council? Also, the discussion I had with the Secretary of State's office indicated there is not one city or town in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that has any 17-year-old voters. None. And what are we doing here? Are we putting a carrot in front of these youngsters saying, we're going to support you so you can vote when you're 17? When we know when it gets to the Beacon Hill, Mr. Mayor, nothing is going to happen to it. It's going to die a slow death. It's going to find the round file. We all know what that is. Let's say that 17-year-old students could vote. Would politicians form a committee at Lowell High School or any high school, say, I want you to vote for me, and form committees within that school? The law says 18 years of age. That's the way it should be. And Mr. Mayor, if a vote is taken on this evening, I would request a roll call vote, because I will not support it tonight like I didn't support it a year ago. I think it's pandering to these youngsters who think they're going to go to bat for us. I respect every youngster that attends Lowell High School or Lowell Catholic, no matter what their age is. But why don't we consider lowering the age to 15? Then my grandson could vote for me the next election. Or 16. Why is it 17? This is, I told my good colleague right here, I said, I love these issues. And Mr. Mayor, stop and think of this. If we send in a home rule petition into the legislature, and they decide to pass it, the floodgates would open up throughout the state. There's a petition in Western Massachusetts to allow non-citizens the right to vote. And the legislature looks at all of these very, very carefully. And they'll look at this one as well. So I can't support it. I've had my say. I had my say a year ago as well.
Council Broderick, then Council Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's an interesting motion, and I don't think it's pandering. I think we all understand the law is 18, and that's why there's no 17-year-olds registered to vote anywhere in the state, because it's illegal as it stands right now, and that's the intent of the motion is for a home rule petition, as is often filed, to try and get something changed for us, like we did when we wanted to not follow the primary. So this is the process. I don't recall the answering the question. It was very loud there, so maybe I was my memory's not so good. But I think that I certainly have no problem in sending this back to the manager of the law department to find out more information. You know, why 17 and not 13 or 7? Well, I think the answer was given to us by Councilor Murphy and Councilman Donser as well, is that, you know, these people, I won't say kids, you know, are old enough to enlist, you know, then maybe we ought to look at whether they should be able to vote. And I think there's more to it. I don't think we're going to find anybody opening up a candidate headquarters down at the high school, but I think that, you know, many of these children, okay, in their senior year are still 17, and they might turn 18 after they graduate. And I think is a way to get them involved, it's worth looking at. And I don't know. I would like to see some information on this. I don't know where we could get it, but I'm sure people can dig this up. What impact might this have in engaging our younger generation in government, in voting? Why not look at it? I think, it can't hurt to look at it. It may be something that will never be done down at the State House. And that's okay. I even called down there to ask what the status is. I wasn't aware of the other petitions, and it may not pass. There are other things that we've sent down there that may never pass as well. So I don't think that that's a reason not to do it if it makes sense. And I think that it certainly could make sense to look at it and see, is this a way to engage the younger generation to get involved while we still have them as a captured audience, so to speak, in school, and not just preach to them that they need to do this as part of a history class, that they need to get out and vote, but actually help them do it and help them get engaged and learn. Now, the difficulty we have is that it'll be every other year, so it's really only going to be effective every 2 years, but I think it's certainly worth looking at and taking a, see if it makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the motion. I think we should be doing everything we can to encourage more people to vote, and I think it's as simple as that. I certainly don't think it's pandering. I think it's following through on an issue that was raised in the campaign. I would be in favor of banning pandering from our discussions here in this chamber. I think the meetings would go a lot quicker every week, but I don't view this issue as that. And I think there are practical issues, as Mr. Goldman said, it's practical, difficult to enforce, but there are a lot of things that would be good. I think most 17-year-olds are seniors in high school. It would be easier to register people through the school. And if students in the school wanted to organize and work on campaigns for candidates, or even a candidate they knew who was their age or slightly older, I don't see why that's such a bad thing. I think we're trying to encourage people to participate in the process. For years, I ran an ad in the Lowell High School yearbook that said, remember to register to vote upon turning 18. But a lot of people have moved on and graduated by the time they turn 18. They're gone away to school. And this would be one way to capture those people while they're still here in Lowell. So I know it's probably a long shot that something like this would pass at the State House. A lot of home rule petitions fail, but some don't. And it doesn't mean we shouldn't try. We do things to restrict the activities of teenagers here in the city. We were among one of the few communities to adopt a curfew and things like that. This is something on the positive end, try to engage younger people in the political process. And frankly, I don't see the harm at all. I think it could only yield good results. So it may be a long shot, but I think we're first in many different areas here in Lowell. We like to think we're innovative, and I think this is one place that we shouldn't be afraid to try.
Thank you. Council Rita Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do remember that question. I don't remember now how I voted, but I do remember that some time ago I did make a motion that I thought it was relevant at the time, and it still baffles me how people can go to the polling place and not have to show any identification. And I did make a motion that I thought it would be wise to have a law that those of us, everyone that goes to vote, must have some form of ID with a picture. If you have a Sam's card with your picture on it, I guess that would qualify, but mostly everyone has some form of an ID with a picture on it. If they don't have a license, you can get and I don't know why it never went anywhere, because I know that if we all went to vote and then we went somewhere else, they'd know that we didn't belong there, but I still felt that there were people voting that probably shouldn't have. And how many times did they do it? Vote early and often. I don't know if they literally took that to task, but that's what I thought was important. But if this is important and you want to investigate it, and I don't see any harm to just look at it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the motion? Council Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to finish by saying that I think we ought to really expect more of our citizens, and in that way, I think you may find that you surprise yourself that people are willing to meet those expectations. Councilor Martin raised a good point. After the age of 17, a lot of students have moved on to either college or work or even the military, and without having that, experience of voting on a very local level, and that's why I say municipal elections. It's what we have some kind of control over. Without that experience, those lessons, those civic lessons, really aren't driven home, I think. And you may just find that, your first voting experience doesn't happen for years later. So I think it is important to keep those students engaged in the community, even though they may move on to other things. And if Councilor Martin would like to make a formal motion on the pandering, I'd be happy to second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Caulfield?
No.
Counselor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça?
Yes.
Counselor Mercia?
I think I voted yes at that time.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 nay, the motion passes.
The next motion and the last motion of the evening by Councilor Murphy. Motion, City Council requests the city manager to explore the possibility of waiving the first-time homebuyer requirements for veterans seeking down payment assistance. Second by Councilor Martin. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things that we signed back in February of this year was a community covenant with the Army, but also the rest of the military, in support of our service members and their families. What I've been thinking about is how we go from just supporting them in spirit to supporting them in actual practice. And one of the ideas was just this, that the first-time home buyer requirement for those receiving down payment assistance from the city might be waived if, in certain situations, for whatever reason, but maybe because of going overseas, that service member wasn't able to build up any kind of equity, so that they would essentially have a second crack at being able to, be eligible for that pool of assistance.
Thank you. Anyone else on the motion? Councilor Martin.
I'd just say I'd support this motion for the same reason I support the last one. I think we should be trying to encourage as many first-time home buyers as we can and get rid of as many restrictions as we can, so.
Thank you. City Manager Lynch.
Be happy to. I think it's an excellent motion, one to investigate, and there is federal money involved with this, so we just have to check the federal requirements. But I think it's something that makes sense, and if it isn't possible in that way, we'll see if there's another way that we can try to achieve the same end.
Councilor Mendonça.
Just for clarification on the motion to make, would we be waiving that they be a first-time home buyer, or the qualification for that, or
right,
my misunderstanding?
You'd be waiving that requirement that you may have a situation where somebody has already bought a home, but for whatever reason, like I say, maybe it's because, in fact, they went overseas, they weren't able to build up any kind of equity, and now are trying to, in essence, start over.
So they would technically not be a first-time home buyer under the current requirements, and that's what we want to waive.
Right.
And that's what I had understood to be, so I'm in support of it, sure.
Thank you. Anyone else on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote? Thank you. Yes, Councilor Mercia.
Mr. Mayor, before we adjourn, could I just remind the public about a very important event that's going to take place on Saturday. It is on Saturday, November 13th at 11 o'clock at West Lawn 1 Cemetery, which is 155 Boston Road. It's the Veterans Memorial Square dedication, and with that, I mean it is sponsored by the Global War Veterans who served in Afghanistan and Iraq. They're going to be dedicating a memorial square called Retiring the Colors, so that it's an area in that cemetery where you could, throughout the year, you could drop your tattered, your damaged, your faded, ripped, or destroyed flag there all throughout the year. I think that on Flag Day, once a year, they will have a ceremony where they will burn them all. This is a remarkable idea. I'm sorry, I didn't think about it, but it is a good idea. And the Boy Scouts are going to be there, and so I think I'm inviting the public to be there as well, 11 o'clock off by Plain Street, 155 Boston Road to West Lawn 1 Cemetery at 11 o'clock, and the public's invited. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was over in the cemetery, and I saw that monument. It's absolutely beautiful, and Tom Belgard and the entire staff and all the veterans need a great deal of thanks for that monument. Also, on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, Veterans Day will occur, and I think we all should be there to recognize the veterans and their sacrifices for this country.
Thank you. Councilor Martin?
Mr. Mayor, the dedication that Councilor Mercier spoke of, where you can retire flags, there's a protocol to take care of a flag and the way you're supposed to display it, and they do get tattered and torn by weather and other things, and so this is going to be a nice place where you can go and retire those flags. I've had some complaints about the flags the city's flying, I think at this time of year we may be getting ready to take them down for winter, but this is nice to have this facility, and it'd be good for us to take note of if some of the city's collection of flags could be improved, or at least the ripped ones take down and brought to this place at the cemetery.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Councilor. Actually, we have, over the course of the last month or so, been in the process of taking some of them down that are in the worst shape. So I agree completely with your sentiments, and certainly if there are some out there that people have noticed that we have not noticed yet, if they could contact us, we would certainly do that. And we do around City Hall here try to replace the flags, particularly out in the Civic Center Plaza, try to replace those at least once a year over the last couple of years. So.
Thank you. Anything else? Motion to adjourn by Councilor Dakota, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor signify by saying aye. We stand adjourned.